Interesting day for the Texans. My God, where do we start? Let's start right at my home base. It's where I am right now. Sports Radio 610. Monday through Friday, 10 to 2. You can hear me on In the Loop. Download the Odyssey app, and you can check me out. And you can also check out Sean Pendergast and Seth Payne, who got the morning started off. The question was, and Lovie Smith was the one who brought this up. Like, Lovie Smith was the one that brought up, I need to talk to the guys about a change. I need to talk to the players. The players are going to be here, and then a change is coming. That's what Lovie Smith said. He didn't have to say that a change was coming. He said a change was coming. So naturally, when Nick Caserio joined Sean Pendergast and Seth Payne, Caserio wouldn't say, really, whether the change was coming. Caserio at about 7:30 a.m. Wouldn't say whether or not the change was coming. And that's fine. I don't expect the general manager to make the announcement. I would think the head coach would be the guy to do that anyways. So I have no problem with Nick Caserio saying whether or not the change was coming. I do have kind of I did get kind of annoyed with something Caserio said, which I'll talk about on the back end of this thing. But as far as Caserio not announcing at 7:30, I understand. Then we go to about 11 a.m. Davis Mills was originally going to meet with the media. Davis Mills does not meet with the media. Lovie Smith goes up there, and Lovie Smith combatively, and I mean combatively, denies the quarterback situation at almost like an awkward, weird level. Let's hear Lovie Smith. And there's people already in the comments. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all for coming through, talking about Lovie Smith. This was Lovie Smith today. And keep in mind that 5-6 minutes after this press conference, I tweeted that it was kind of clear that Kyle Allen was going to be the guy. And then Mike Garafolo breaks the news 5 minutes after Lovie Smith goes up there and puts on this display.
Guys, announcement, just so we kind of establish things here. I do not announce who's starting through the week. We have a starting lineup. The last one that we have.
Here's the thing. If you don't announce things, why were you the one who brought it up? Why were you the one who brought it up? You're the one who said something is coming. I don't announce things. Then why even say anything?
And when it changes, we'll let you know. But during the week, of course, we're not going to announce anything like that. I think that would give the opponent an advantage. So our starting lineup, as far as you're concerned, is and this would have been, I would have said the same thing 3 weeks ago. It's the same one until told otherwise.
Considered a change at play caller?
I've absolutely not. Have I considered a change at play caller? No. All of our coaches are doing working their butt off. Have we gotten the results? No. So all those kind of questions like that, I think you know the answer. It's no.
Hey, Lovie, how have you seen Damian grow from when he first got here to now?
Now we can move past this one.
When he first got here, couldn't get the as far as like I said earlier, picking a quarterback. We had a quarterback last week. What do you mean picking? Guys, we want to go down this road. We're not going anywhere with this. All right. We have the guys in place, as I said. You heard the start press conference, right? That's what it is. It's not going to be any other announcements. We hold everybody to a high standard. Our play this past week was not what it needs to be. I think we're going to get better. And if we don't, we'll always look for our best option. Whether you agree with the best option or not, you have a right to that.
Any update on Stingley, how he's coming?
He's it was a mild hamstring, right? Is that what we said the other day?
Change. Did you implement that change? And if so, you said you wanted to speak to your players. How did they respond?
That's between us, of course. Not going to, of course, talk. I talk to the guys every day. So how did they respond? We go over the video. We go over every play every day. So, and conversation I'm going to have with guys, I don't normally go over those with you either. Don't plan on starting that either. I think you know that too.
Hey, Lovie, I know you your folks on this year, but last year's game in Miami was pretty wild one with the 9.
We know what they do offensively with the receiver. We just
There was some more of that. I just got to say, I think it's hilarious that Lovie's that combative, and then 5 minutes later the news breaks that Kyle Allen is the starting quarterback. I also think, as far as like his notion of, it gives a competitive advantage, I think you could argue both ways. I think you could argue like both ways about whether or not it gives a competitive advantage. I'll also mention that Robert Saleh today announced a new starting quarterback, and he wasn't worried about a competitive advantage. And maybe this is me being an ageist. Maybe this is just how I feel. But I'll side with Robert Saleh and how he handles things in today's NFL more so than Lovie Smith. Different strokes for different folks. That's just me. Like if Lovie Smith says something, then I tend to side with Robert Saleh's philosophy at this point. I think Lovie tends to lead old school. I just don't know like how much of a competitive advantage is it. Like you could make a case, like if you told Miami you got to cram for Kyle Allen, now all of a sudden they're preparing for Kyle Allen. And I don't think it makes too much of a difference, but I just thought it was interesting. Lovie went up there, and I think that Lovie, it seems like he's almost kind of breaking as the face and the soothing voice of this organization at this point, which I thought was the most important role that he had. And I really enjoyed the job he did at the press conference when they named him coach. We talked to him right after that. I thought he did a really good job. I thought that was his most important task, but I think he's just kind of breaking. And I'm sure he's frustrated. I think a lot of people are, but you look kind of silly going up. He looked silly in the first place. And then when Garofalo and everyone else breaks the news afterwards, it looks even sillier that Lovie goes up there and is that combative. Questions. Doesn't matter who starts for this team, but I'm glad they're trying something. I agree. Maybe Kyle Allen gives you a better look at other guys. Maybe he helps Brandon Cooks increase his trade value in the offseason. And also it gives Pep Hamilton a fair shot to either show, Davis Mills was kind of handcuffing me, or you can kind of get more of a look at what Kyle Allen brings. 713 Sports, shout out to Rube. Absolutely crazy. FA says Lovie Smith interview today was absolutely pathetic. You're not alone on that. I got a lot of messages from people saying the same thing. How do I feel about Kyle Allen? I think Kyle Allen is a NFL backup. And I don't know how much better he is than Davis Mills or how much better he'll look at Davis Mills, but it's something different. It's pretty intriguing. And I think if you are trying to win, which I don't think that it matters whether or not they're trying to win, I think that you were getting to the point where credibility was kind of struggling or lacking whenever you keep running Davis Mills out there. This turns the page on the Davis Mills era. So I think that's another thing that we need to keep in mind. It's officially dead. And that's, where we're at. How the hell are they going to replace Tank General Mills like that? They just had to do it. But yeah, that is, it is funny because the biggest, just like the roller coaster that we've been on, and we're all in this together, remember. But the roller coaster that we've been on has been hilarious because, it started out with, you want to get a look at Davis Mills. You want to get a look at Davis Mills. Could this team be better? Could Davis Mills be the best rookie quarterback from last year's class? And then it kind of transitioned to, you know what? If we want to keep losing, we got to leave Davis Mills in there. That's how bad it got for Davis Mills, that a lot of people didn't want to bench him because they felt that Kyle Allen was the better option. And this is the other thing. And I think this is kind of a nobody's talking about. If you listen to In the Loop, we have nobody's talking about. Sometimes they're kind of ironic and sometimes they're like legit nobody's talking about. This is something that I think nobody's talking about, that I hope if this continues, then Nick Caserio is probably going to have a hard time being GM for a long time. And maybe there's other factors that come into it. Maybe there's like a different mindset when you're in the situation the Texans are in compared to, when you have more cap space and when you have more assets. But if you watch the preseason, and I watched every preseason game, I'm sure most of y'all did. I was at every training camp practice. There were a couple things that were clear. Like at minicamp, it was clear Justin Britt was washed. I talked about him looking like Matt Khalil did before he retired. Physically, he just wasn't holding up. And it was very clear. They didn't play him in preseason. They played him in week 1, and he got physically abused and damn near got Dameon Pierce, Rex Burkhead, and Davis Mills killed. And we haven't seen him since for personal reasons. It was obvious that Justin Britt was washed. Kamu Grugier-Hill, they watched him last year. They watched him struggle in coverage, and they brought back Kamu Grugier-Hill, and Kamu Grugier-Hill was out there, and he didn't look very good. Davis Mills was the 3rd best quarterback in preseason. Now, that's not the end-all, be-all, but it's not like we're talking about like Aaron Rodgers where you need to see him play one snap. And I still would have started Davis Mills, but if you look at preseason, Driscoll was better, Kyle Allen was better. So maybe we should have thought more of that instead of dismissing it. Again, I still think it's fine because the upside of Davis Mills looking good is better than the upside of Kyle Allen looking good. And I think bottoming out might actually be better than winning 4 or 5 games because I am becoming relatively obsessed with that number 1 pick. But in the preseason, Mills just didn't look good. He didn't look good in practice. I remember the first practice. First question we asked Brandon Cooks was, what the heck is up with the deep ball from Davis? So I just think that's something to at least keep in mind and kind of something that goes into like evaluation and whatnot. Facebook users, why do coaches insist on giving these ridiculous answers? Just be honest and say you're moving forward with Kyle Allen, provide a spark on offense. Mills hasn't been good, and he's going to improve as a backup for now. Done. Simple. See, I mean, if Lovie Smith has his old school philosophy and he thinks it gives a competitive advantage, that's cool. I just don't think Robert Saleh feels that way. And I think there's a discussion that can go into if you actually are giving the other team an advantage in doing so. And the other thing is, like, if Lovie Smith wants to come in there and be a combative guy, then why the hell did he say on Monday, a change is coming and that's, I'm going to talk with the players and then the offensive changes are coming. Like, if you're going to be secretive, be secretive. It's like when he said when Justin Britt was gone, we'll have an announcement on Friday, and then people ask him about him on Friday, and or the next press conference, he gets pissed off about it. It's just kind of hard, and it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Lovie seems to kind of be breaking as like the soothing voice of this thing, but again, it is frustrating. Juan says, when you say we have $72 million in dead cap, is that for this year or next? It's this year. They moved it around to where this year they have the $75 million in dead cap. So signing players is often hard. They had to do some maneuvering at one point, but the $75 million is in dead cap. And some people will ask, like, well, why did they do it this year? Probably because it's like credit card debt. Like, you can either pay the credit card debt all at once, or you can spread it out. They're basically paying off their credit card debt from Jack Easterby and Bill O'Brien right now, and they're taking the $75 million on the chin. They'll still have a little bit of dead cap next year, but it clears up. So they basically decided, we could push this back next year and we could spread it out. We could go, whatever number you want to divide up. But they decided they were going to do the dead cap this year. And I do think that's important to take into account when it comes to, all the tanking theories and all the, concerns about how stuff gets better. They're definitely going to have a lot more money to work with. So that's how that kind of works. Nick Caserio was disappointed in Davis Mills based on what he said today. They're drafting Bryce Young next year for sure. I don't know. I know it's hard not to be disappointed in Davis Mills if you expected anything out of him. Hell, if you didn't expect much from him, you should still be disappointed in Davis Mills, which I think is also the case with Lovie Smith. Caserio said today that, Davis Mills is symbolic of the rest of the team. Yeah, even if you had low expectations, if you had low expectations for Lovie Smith, I think you're probably disappointed in that too. So it would be impossible for anyone with a pulse to not be somewhat disappointed in Davis Mills. Where can we find the interview with Caserio? The Odyssey app. Fire up the Odyssey app. You can check it out. The Payne and Pendergast page. So just fire up the Odyssey app. Check that out. We also went through it today on our show if you want to check out some of the highlights and lowlights, depending on who you ask. Facebook user says, nice. I guess he's talking about the cap stuff. I respect Robert Saleh. He's a hell of a coach. I agree. I want what they have with the Jets. And if you hear Mike McDaniel talk this week, the Dolphins coach, man, that Shanahan, just the whole Shanahan pipeline, it's just been absolutely just remarkable. Over the course of the week. Monday, you had Saleh talking about Zach Wilson. Then you had Kyle Shanahan doing what he's doing on Monday night, the dominant win. You had Mike McDaniel. If you watch a Mike McDaniel press conference, you get smarter each time you hear it. And the same thing with Robert Saleh. Doesn't matter if they're offensive minded. Doesn't matter if they're defensive minded. Just guys from that Shanahan pipeline, guys from that Shanahan coaching tree. They're just incredible. And I think that's probably why a lot of people, on top of other things, want DeMeco Ryans and kind of want to coach like that more so than like kind of a older guy. So we're not grading Caserio on last year's draft. Only prospective players, Collins, maybe Wall and special teams. I think it's fair. I think the critical grading of Nick Caserio starts, once they get through this year. And if they have a rock bottom year next year and the rookies aren't progressing, I think that's when you really got to start asking yourself questions. Now, they did get through the tough part, and there have been other teams that have been rock bottom where, it's a couple of general managers before you get to the guy. Say what you want about Cleveland. I think they like Andrew Berry right now. They have a pretty good roster despite their results right now. Obviously, they got Deshaun suspended, but, Sashi Brown was their GM for a couple of years. And then they had another guy, and that's where they went. So Caserio can be the guy that gets you through the mud, or Caserio can be the guy that, takes you to the promised land. Hopefully they get there. But he's at least gotten you through the mud, but now it's time to evaluate him a lot different. And that's where you do evaluate the guys from last year. As far as like the Roy Lopez's and the Wallows and stuff, what did you really expect from Roy Lopez? I think Roy Lopez is a rotational guy. I think he's starting on this team. But I don't hold that too much against him in Wallow. If Kenyon Green doesn't look much better next year, or Derek Stingley, there's still a wide gap between him and Sauce and some of the other rookie corners. I think that's where we start getting more critical, as well as Petrie. But it's absolutely fair to assess Caserio. You're through the mud. Now you're going to have the cap space. You're going to have to decide if Lovie Smith's the guy. And I think this is the crucial part for Nick Caserio. Speaking of which, I irrationally hated the way that he ended the interview today. I thought it was whack. He went out of his way to talk about more important things than football. Sometimes, like, I understand saying that type of stuff, like in different contexts, like if you're talking about, a tragedy or something like that. But, talking about Thanksgiving, loved ones, football doesn't matter. I think football does matter. I think it matters a lot. I think it's a bonding experience with families. I think it's a bonding experience with the city. It economically helps the city. There's a lot of jobs created by it. There's a lot of businesses that rely on football business. I think COVID kind of showed us that. And I think it's really rich of someone who, makes as much money as Nick Caserio does in this situation. And football also makes a lot of stuff off the field possible. All the stuff the Texans do in the community. So I was annoyed by it. I mean, and I get irrationally annoyed by stuff. You all know that. If you listen to me, I'm a little bit more tamed right now because I've just been yelling for 4 hours. So the time to catch me kind of, not in my wired up zone is after, but I thought that was whack. people know, like I go to every game. People know that there's more important stuff than football right now. Like you don't need to remind people. Like look in the seats, look in the stands. It's not like you're saying that at Ohio State or any other NFL franchise where fans are actually showing up. We don't need to be reminded of that. And I always think that's kind of elitist when like guys who've benefited the most from football say that. I just thought it was whack. But I still trust the process. I just don't think I need to be reminded by Nick Caserio, because I don't think you need to minimize the importance of football, especially in this city. We went without it. So I thought that was weak. I know he's just wishing people a happy Thanksgiving and stuff, but come on, man. Don't need to hear that. That's just me, though. At Landry Locker on Twitter, at Landry Locker on Instagram. I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving. We got a triple header tomorrow. We got Kyle Allen starting on Sunday. I'll keep the videos coming. Keep the subscriptions coming. I'm trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. And then after the season, the draft's going to come, going to improve the artwork. We're going to improve a lot of things. This thing's going to, I'm going to keep using this thing and doing daily content, and getting as much stuff out of there, as I possibly, can. And I enjoy talking to all you folks. Juan asks, you think the Browns game going to have a full house? I hope so, man. I'm really excited for it. And I'm excited to cover this team. I know it can be a beating. I know it's a growing process, but I think this is really, 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 really a fun thing to do. And I enjoy talking to all you. And I'm not going to minimize the importance of football. I think it creates a lot of bonds. Hell, he said Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a football holiday, bro. Like, come on. Everybody's going to be watching football. So come on, Nick, let's be better than that in more ways than one. Kyle Allen's your new starter. And remember, no matter how bad things get, we are in this together.